What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and whatever time it is. Welcome back to yet another video with me, Immersiaholic. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another online battle for the Divided Impera Overall mod for Total War Rome 2. Today, we have your man, Immersiaholic, playing as Macedon, taking on the Seleucids, played by my very good friend Kalogero. Some of you guys may recognize this battle. It happened about 3 months ago now, actually, during a live stream that I did on the channel a very long time ago now, like I said. But this was a really fun battle between me and Kalogero, and so a lot of you guys who were there live watching actually requested I cover this replay in an online battle separately, just so we could kind of break down what happened a little bit more. And also, I honestly just wanted to show off these cool factions. We have Macedon and the Seleucids, the juggernauts of the Diadochi factions. And I just realized we don't have any online replays of the Seleucids on my channel, which is just unacceptable. So we're going to have this very cool matchup happen. We're going to be using the larger battlefield submod for DEI. So the battlefield is just absolutely wonkers. Look how bloody big that is. Woo! We have a lot of terrain, a lot of forest to be fighting around, these two major hills in the center. It's a very terrain-focused battle, or at least it is early on. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's go in and look at the Macedonian roster. After that, we'll look at the initial phases of the battle, and then once we actually see the Seleucid main army, I'll go over their roster as well. So let's get into it. Okay, everybody, starting on the left and then going to our right, we have cavalry in the far left-hand flank. We have Tarentine cavalry and some Sarissa lances, skirmisher cav, and melee/melee skirmisher cav here. Wait, did I say skirmisher? I meant shock cavalry. Sorry. Far out. You can see that I haven't done one of these online battles for quite a while now. But anyway, we have Thurio spears in front of them to try and support my left-hand side. We then have Agrianian axemen, of course. Thurio swordsmen next to them. Then in the front of our line, we have two sets of white shield infantry. These guys are essentially Thurio swordsmen, but I believe they have just slightly worse statistics than the Thurio swords, if we just go back and forth. Yeah, Thurio swords are definitely better, but these guys are a cheaper alternative. So they're going to be my screening infantry, which is why they're at the front. And I do have a decent sized shield, so that should protect them from some limited skirmisher fire. But anyway, behind them we have three sets of Greek bronze shield pikemen. I don't like bringing much pikemen to online battles, so it's going to be hard to use these guys, and it's just only 3 units, so we'll see. We then have Thracian warriors in the back, some of the best shock infantry in the game. Our general way at the back at the front with a sacred squadron unit, which has 200 men per unit, as long as it's your general's bodyguard, so that's really insane. But it is only a shock cav unit, so I've got to be mindful of that. On the right hand side we have Thurio swords, Agrianian axemen, Thurio spears, Sarissa lances, so shock cav, and then more Tarentines yet again. So both of my flanks mirror each other, as always almost. Not as always, but I do like to mirror my formations quite a lot. However, that is not all of our army. We actually have 2 more units way up here in the forest. We have Agrianian Paltis. This is one of the first battles where me and Kalogero were using the larger battlefield submod. So my thinking early on for this battle is to set units up along this ridge up here, so I have a line of sight in case he tries to do something sneaky and launch his troops up onto my tree line here. Obviously these 2 mountains are not within the deployment of either of us. Kalogero should be deploying somewhere basically to the left of this line, around there, essentially. But yeah, I don't have the exact deployment right now. But that is the benefit of using the larger battlefield deployment mod. So anyway, let's press play. Like I said, we'll go over the Seleucid roster once we actually start to see them. I know I could just read it off to you guys, but I kind of want you all to experience the uncertainty that I had to experience as well, because going into a map like this is on the Macedonian map, FYI, I really didn't know what to expect from these Seleucids. They have elephants, they have great cavalry, great pikes, great swords, pretty solid skirmishers. The Seleucids have a bit of everything. They're one of the best factions in the game. Very, very versatile and very, very elite. So you're going to see me doing a lot of scouting. Immediately I'm sending forward both of my cavalry contingents off to my left and right hand flank respectively. They won't be going far ahead of my army, but they will basically be acting as a screening force to make sure that the Seleucids, once again, don't try to rush forward with their cavalry and try and do something sneaky in like this foliage here, something over here, or maybe they might even try to get all the way up here. Who knows? Kalogero is a very skilled player, so I cannot underestimate him, and I try not to. So I'm sending forward my cavalry contingents alongside of their Furio Spear escorts. They will be trailing behind, but they'll catch up. That's okay. In the meantime, my main army will be moving forward on the center right of the map. I'm basically planning to set up my army along this ridgeline right here, and then hopefully that will go Kalogero to engage me frontally right here. And then I expected the majority of the fighting to occur around at least one of these hills here. But we'll see what happens. For now, like I said, scouting is just continuing. My cavalry is up here ready to support my pelters. And the same thing is happening on the right-hand flank. In fact, I'm going quite far forward, all the way up here, where my units will hold for a while. And we'll just keep an eye out for any Seleucid scouts while our main army moves forward. But immediately, as soon as I say that, we actually begin to see Seleucid scouts. This is just a companion cavalry unit. Nothing too crazy, 100 men, shock cavalry unit. I mean, it's a pretty solid shock cav unit, but it's just a 1 is what I mean by not too crazy. And so I did see that when this battle was happening, saw him come up here. So now I'm expecting Kalogero to have at least a fair few units, if not already on the hill, following up towards the hill. So it looks like, from my point of view, he's going to take the hill, and it makes sense too. Each of these hills is very valuable. So I keep my cavalry up here on the hill. I intentionally keep them in the open, just so he doesn't feel tempted to try and rush my hill, and that way it kind of keeps him guessing. So we have some mind games happening already. I know his unit can see me, it's just chilling up here in the forest. This unit right here isn't even hidden anymore, so I know he spotted it. But again, I kind of want to bring the Seleucid army away from the foliage that they have on their right flank or my left, and try to just concentrate the battle over here on this side. But we're going to be doing a fair bit of fast forwarding, at least until the skirmishing phase begins. So let's go ahead and do some of that. So it's been about 5 minutes or so. My army is in position here on this right hand side, and I've basically been holding for about 3 to 4 minutes now. And all we've had happen really is his cavalry come out and do some scouting. This is a different unit though. This is his Thessalian thorax cavalry. He did have his companion cav up here on the hill still. So, oh, are we seeing it right now? Yes, we are. So this is all I've seen so far throughout this battle. And it's, by this point, it had been about 10 minutes of actual battle time with like all of the walking that you guys saw. So what I'm going to be trying to do is basically present to him a really large portion of my army. Not all of it, but enough to hopefully make him feel comfortable in engaging me. I'm still really trying to draw him out away from the hills, away from the foliage, out here in the open. Because when we're in the open, he can't really use too many surprises against me, and that's basically my biggest concern in this battle, is what the hell is Kalogero going to bring as these Seleucids? I still have no idea. So again, more mind games kind of happening where I'm out here presenting my army in a way that will hopefully encourage him to come on down and fight me, or maybe he'll come over here and fight me. We still don't know where his army is. To change that though, what I'm going to be doing is some very aggressive scouting now. I send forward one of my units of cavalry over here, the Tarentine cavalry, and then I see his companion cav is still hanging out up here on the hill. And so we're going to have a little bit of cat and mouse. He did see me cross the gap right here. He doesn't know exactly where my Tarentines are, but he knows that I am doing some scouting. So we'll do a light fast forward at the very least. But I am monitoring where his cavalry is. One thing that kind of catches me off guard is that all I've seen is cavalry up here. I haven't seen any infantry yet, so that's leading me to believe perhaps he doesn't even want to take the hill. But let's do some more fast forwarding and see what happens. Okay, here we come with our first initial engagement. I start to go aggressive towards the hill to scout it, now believing that he doesn't really have any dedicated troops up there, and it appears I was correct. He has a companion cavalry unit right up here, charging directly into my Sarissa Lancers. Not the best charge in the world for either side. We basically kind of take even casualties there. However, for me, I have my Furio Spears coming up to support. In addition, I still have my Tarentines down here on the left. And then behind them, I have my two Agrianian Peltas. So my thinking is that I'll hopefully draw his cavalry in to try and let my Peltas deal some serious damage. My Furio Spears are moving up to try and support. However, you're going to see me get a little bit of Rome 2'd here, where I'm going to be trying to have my Furio Spears throw their javelins. You can see they're getting an attack order. But there's some kind of invisible ground going on here, some invisible terrain, which, for whatever reason, made it so my spearmen couldn't throw their spears. So that was very frustrating. But to try and counter that, we're just going to come in with our Tarentines right now. We finally get a volley off with our Furio Spears. Not ideal, but it does happen. And then I have my Agrianians try to come out as well. But they're way too late to even hopefully get involved. So, unfortunately, even though we dealt some casualties to his men, we did end up losing one of our cavalry units basically to nothing up here. So definitely not ideal. We do have my Tarentines engaged with his companion cav now. They will win that fight over time. My Furio Spears are now finally getting through that glitchy area of terrain. And my Agrianians are coming up to help support. All the while that's happening, my mainline army is moving forward, and we're now finally starting to see major sections of his army, which it basically looks like he's arraying his army in a formation kind of like this. Still not 100% sure though. Kalogero goes ahead and pulls away his cavalry, fair enough. He knows that I have Peltas support in the area, and I still have my Tarentines, although they have taken a fair bit of a beating. He does have the 2 units of cavalry, and then he has another one over here as well. So he does come off basically with the advantage in that early engagement. If my Furio Spears didn't have that really annoying kind of freak out moment there, perhaps we could have done better, but it is what it is. I should have known better than to trust the unit to actually throw their javelins. But anyway, now that we can see the majority of his army, let's very quickly go through the army that we can see and check out these Seleucid units. So let's go ahead from right to left with these guys. On the right hand flank over here, we have some Greek archers. We have the companion cavalry and the... are they both companions? Yes, they are. Both companion cav units. Right here, they're the cav units that we were fighting in the initial skirmish phase on the hill. Behind them, we have the general of the Seleucids, a late Royal Guard cavalry unit, very heavy shock cav unit, but is shock, not merely cav, so if it gets stuck in a fight, it will get ground down. Moving to the final line of the Seleucids, or the third line, we have their pikemen. We have Greek bronze shield pikemen on both sides, and then in the center, we of course have the famous silver shields. Who else but them? In front of them in the second line we have Greek archers, just 3 units of them, an additional unit on the right flank, remember, so 4 total. We then have Thessalian Florex cavalry, Furio Spears in the front, 2, 3, 4 units of Furio Spears, and on his far left flank he has 2 more Furio Spears. And then way out here on his far left flank, he has Thessalian Florex cavalry. Thought they were hidden. Unfortunately, the terrain here was just a little bit glitchy, and it didn't keep them hidden. Just Rome 2 things. But anyway, now that we see he has a pretty dedicated Diadochi force. He has a lot of spears, a lot of cavalry, some pretty low tier skirmishers, but he has some elite pikemen. I still wasn't sure if this was his whole army. Just looking at it now, I'm pretty sure this actually is. I just did a quick count, and this is about 19 units here on the battlefield, so I wasn't entirely sure. I didn't really count them in the heat of the moment there. But I can see he does have expensive cavalry and expensive pikemen. So as far as I could tell, he shouldn't have elephants, and he might have like another infantry unit floating around. But he's basically retreating away from the terrain as well. he seems to have a similar idea that both of our armies aren't really suited to terrain fighting. This probably wasn't even the best battle map for me to choose for us, so a bit of a mistake on my part. But because he also doesn't appear to want any surprises, he is retreating and forming up a main battle line. Interesting choice. I mean, I did present him my army down here, so he should have seen it with his scouts that were up here on the hill, but maybe he didn't see it for whatever reason, or maybe he just still didn't feel comfortable. So instead what we'll be doing is fighting way out here back towards his deployment zone on the flat plains of Macedonia. So let's go ahead and fast forward till that engagement begins. Okay, everybody, here we go. The battle is pretty much about to begin. I know it's been a while, but that's the kind of thing with the larger battlefield submod. You do need to do a lot of maneuvering with your army. Me and Kalogero played it very careful for the majority of our units. Just in that opening skirmisher phase, I kind of screwed up and lost one of my cav units and took damage on another. So right now, he certainly has the cavalry advantage with 2 units on either flank in addition to his general. He did have that other unit out there, but I believe he's brought it out and it's one of those 2 units now. But either way, he's not going to sit back. He's going to move his army forward. He has his skirmishing advantage as well. You'll note, I actually don't have any long-range skirmishers at all. All I have is the Agriani and Peltas over here on my left. So I'm going to be moving them off to the brushland over there to hopefully have him forget that I have Agrianians out here. And then he'll be tempted to come in and take on my Tarentines. That's my line of thinking there. I have Thero Spears close enough to support as well. And then my Agriani and Axemen can also come out and support. I'm going to begin by marching my throwaway White Shield Swordsman forward. They'll engage his Spearmen frontally. He has 4 Thurio Spears as his main battle line that we'll deal with. I'll also be sending in Thurio Swordsmen to support. So we'll have a 4v4 engagement right there with Thracian warriors in the second line. Basically waiting to be given a specific little mission to punch through. At least that's the idea. Right hand flank, cavalry engagement is going to begin shortly. He does have Thurio Spears nearby that can come in and support. Got to be careful of that. On the left hand flank, I am moving forward my cavalry. Once again, I'm just trying to tempt him to send out his cav to try and deal with my own Tarentines. He then splits up his pikemen though. Instead of having 3 lines, he has 2. So he brings out his third line into 2 halves. So he's bringing a pikeman on the sides of his spearmen. One of my Thracian warriors gets annihilated by his archers. They do targeted volleys, which isn't great. But he also hasn't targeted my pikemen. So I'm going to be moving my pikemen forward to try and engage his own. Hopefully we do well there. Pull back with my cavalry on the right. They're going to try and hold off since the battle isn't looking too good for us. So instead, we go a little bit more aggressive on the left-hand side here. Thurio Spears will engage his. I'm going to get the charge right there as well. I don't believe he gets off a charge order. No, he doesn't. So we'll win that fight given time. He has pikemen right here who are just chilling out. They're actually not even in pike formation, so I should have charged them and we would have done okay. But instead, I kept my Thurio Swordsman here sitting still just to make sure that he couldn't do anything with his pikes. If he did, he would have to engage them, and if he did, I would just retreat back, but I didn't need to there. Right hand flank, we have a disaster incoming. The Seleucids get an excellent charge against my cavalry. My micromanagement was not on point on this day, and so because of that, my cavalry is going to get slaughtered. I realized it way too late that they were coming in. I do have Thurio Spears that will support, and I have my general coming in, which is a very, very good cav unit. But for all intents and purposes, our right flank is going to be crumbling very, very soon with those charges. He's already outflanking us with pikemen, although it's not the most mobile unit. And then he has his general out here as well, basically just waiting to pounce against my own general. So our right flank is going to be collapsing very, very quickly. The center, things aren't going too well, but they're not going too terrible either. The far left-hand flank, I've engaged my cavalry into his just to try and tie them up. While I'm tying them up, I'm sending forward my Peltas to try and deal with his pikemen. If we could punch a hole against his pikemen right here, that would be very helpful for us. But I ended up trying to change my target here and send my Agrianians to go after his cavalry, but I'm not sure why they're running right through the enemy formation right here. Perhaps that's a little battle replay bug. That shouldn't have happened. That's interesting. But I remember my pelters came in really fundamentally useful on the left-hand flank. We are seeing the movement orders come out, so maybe it wasn't a bug, maybe I just screwed up. But anyway, we will see those Agrianians deal with his cavalry eventually. At least they will try to. Right-hand flank still is not going well. However, I do get a nice recharge on some of his units, so that will help us out. Although his general is coming around to do the same against my men as well. Basically, this whole section of right troops is going to get wiped out. So what I'm going to try and do is pull out my general, and then eventually I'll just bring him either back around the rear or around the enemy formation. I can't lose him. If we lose him, this battle is absolutely over. Center is still going relatively well for me, actually. One of my Thracian warrior units is doing fantastic. They've only lost 20 men, and they have 140 kills right here. So they're going to cut through those Furio Spears very quickly. My white shield infantry are not doing too well, but they have worn down the Furio Spears at least. So it's not the end of the world, but we are going to start losing ground there. My Agrianians out here are basically just chasing his cavalry and then getting their kills from a distance. So that's actually going very nicely for me. They don't have a lot of kills yet, but their kills are towards his elite cavalry. So essentially, his left-hand flank is being nullified with the cav advantage that he has with just 2 of my Peltus units. He doesn't want to charge into them for whatever reason. He begins getting routes as well, and he's right my left-hand flank. So my pikemen will hopefully continue to push in and get some more routes happening. Our center right did relatively okay, although they did suffer some casualties. In the meantime, I am trying to pull out my general, which he is also chasing with his own general, so it's a little bit of a mess, although thankfully my general's bodyguard unit does have a lot more men left. So I am going to try and just continue pulling away, get the hell away out of that fight. And just as we do that, the last remnants of the Macedonian right flank is annihilated. So I'm winning against his left flank way over here. Let me lower this actually. I'm winning against his left flank, but he's winning against my right. So it's essentially going to end up dissolving into another formation, essentially, where we'll be lining up our troops against one another. But his troops out here actually are being really messed up. My Peltus actually finished off his cavalry on his right. This is them retreating right there. So my Peltus have done an amazing job, and I mean, arguably, they may have just won me the battle. The fact that his entire right side of cavalry was defeated by these 2 units, that's absolutely amazing for me, and that's exactly what I need in a fight like this. So we are trying to surround his units here, and then we're also trying to move forward and reunite with our right center formation. My general's still trying to pull away. He has 85 men left. It's pretty low for him, but he is still alive, which is the main thing. Now I notice that the enemy general is kind of isolated. He does have a cavalry unit right here, but he's trying to focus too much on recharging my infantry instead of hunting down my cavalry unit over here. So what I'm going to be doing is trying to actually get counter charges against his general. And then as I do that, I'm going to be trying to tie up his other cavalry units. Like right here, we're trying getting those Thessalians. They're pretty low on morale right now. They're pretty tired, taking a lot of casualties. Shaking, shaking. Can we shatter them off the field? We get them routing. Will they shatter though? That's the main thing. Yes, they will. Bye-bye. Very vital to get those men shattered. What is this holding right here? This must be a silver shield unit. Yes, it is. Oh, no. Terrible micro from your boy Emergaholic right here. Dude. Why am I attacking them frontally? Such a mistake. Wow, that's really bad. We did get this unit routed over here. Furio Spears, off you go. But through all of this, the majority of my center and left of my infantry has survived. So combining that with my general still being alive, this is actually looking very, very feasible and if not favorable right now. My units are in relatively decent condition. He does have his general left, which is a very powerful unit, but he's gotten to the point where he's taken a lot of hit point damage as well. So as long as I can get around this bloody silver shield unit, this is actually starting to look very promising for us. We basically were just able to get rid of his cavalry And then after we did that, he didn't really have too much of an answer for us, it seems. Charging down, I have infantry support right here as well. Some of our Thurios swordsmen trying to come in and fight his skirmishes while my general chases his. You can see right there, his general just lost like 20 men, not in a single charge, but just in trying to pull away. And that's because the hit point damage has just taken such a toll on his unit. These men are dropping like flies as soon as they're touched now. He has got a lot of kills with 159, which is nothing to scoff at. But, I mean, it's very isolated, and the majority of his infantry are either gone or they're separated. And with that, we actually get the friggin' win. The general of these Seleucids just died. The replay just cut short about like 10-15 seconds. But the general ended up dying out there, and with that death, the rest of the infantry of the Seleucids shattered. So somehow, possibly due entirely to the Agrianians we actually end up winning the battle with a very close victory. Let's very quickly go over these statistics, and then we'll end it there. Here we are at the statistics screen. As you can see, my cavalry did pretty horrendous, or I did horrendous with them. Less than 100 kills combined with 4 cavalry units. That's unacceptable. Really, really bad. My general did okay considering. But the real kind of highlight for me was my pikemen actually getting quite a few kills. Combining that with my swordsmen. Thurio swords did really nice. One of my Thracian units did amazing. My Thurio spear, one of my units did good. Another one, not really. But my Agrianians came in massive. One unit, 312 kills. That's disgusting. That's an Axeman unit, not the Peltus unit. The Peltus units, not only are they completely alive and didn't take any casualties, but their 64 and 73 kills respectively are against his cavalry. They're not really against any infantry. I didn't have them engage infantry. So the fact that even though their kills aren't all that high, their kills are very, very meaningful. And arguably, once again, almost won me the battle. He wasn't able to use the right flank advantage that he had with his cavalry. And look at all the kills that he did get with his cav. He did very well with it. Well, not very well, but he could have done very well. He did, okay with them. If I didn't shut down his right flank of cavalry, who knows, this would have been 200-300 kills per unit potentially. And I'm guessing because he brought in his elite silver shield pikes in addition to a lot of Thurios, little Thurio spam there, and some really good cavalry, he wasn't able to bring in his very good swordsmen that the Seleucids have available, these silver shield swordsmen. That perhaps could have turned the tide of the battle for him. And his Peltus. I probably would have brought in Peltus instead of these archers. These archers are they're very cheap, but they're very hard to get much bang for your buck. 57 kills is kind of the most I would expect from any of these 4 archer units. So that's actually not bad at all for it. It's pretty good, which is kind of sad to say though. You need more kills from almost a quarter of your army. Thurio spears, they all did okay, but I mean, as a main battle line, they're not really going to do a lot for you. At least not against a faction like Macedon that can grind through them very quickly. My pikemen and swordsmen combined would beat all of his units in a one-on-one. The only reason that his main line did so well is one, because my Thracians got annihilated by his archers, so he did do well with those. But also, I had my pikemen on the far flanks, and they took quite a while to get in position, so that kind of bought him a little bit of extra time. My white shields ended up retreating. They didn't do too terrible though. They got pretty good kills, but it was just, I don't know, man. I'm really surprised that he ended up losing it in the end there. I think it's just that right flank of his cavalry losing, combining that with not having a very solid main front line. I would have perhaps liked to have seen only like 2 units of Thurio spears, combine them with his cavalry, and instead bring in more cheap pikes. At the very least, they could hold my pikes in place. But yeah, my pikes ended up doing very well. A lot of kills and very few deaths overall. So very interesting battle. I really appreciate my man Kalogero playing with me. I hope you guys don't mind me using this replay. I know some of you may recognize it from a stream we did a while ago, but I also had a lot of requests to check it out. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, there will be more replays coming out very soon. Please do go ahead and send me more replays, especially 1v1s. I have a lot of battles which are like team based, like 3v3, 4v4, that kind of thing. While they are fun, I kind of prefer the 1v1 online battles, to be honest. Not only is it much better for my PC to handle, because 4v4s are just like slideshows, really. But 1v1s, they're just a little bit more interesting to me. I feel like they show off the skill of a player a lot more, whereas when you're having groups fighting, it's not necessarily as pure, if that makes sense. It's probably just me overthinking it. But anyway, please do send me more online replays. I do need more. I'm starting to get low on some, actually. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to do that via Discord, or you can email me at immersioholic@gmail.com. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I shall see you in the next one.